Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Special Committee of the Whole meeting. It is Tuesday, October 1st, and it is 6:30 p.m. If I could have a roll call, please.
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Rilke.
Here.
Rosted.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda, and I will take a motion for same.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Is there anyone signed up for citizen comment? Okay. Then the first item of new business is discussion of the 2025 budget add date for publishing.
Just a brief overview. A lot of the numbers in the ad are going to change based on tonight's discussion. What we're going to be asking for at the council is just for your approval to publish the ad with the information discussed at tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting. It's a little cart before the horse, but we think it's the best way to proceed on this item.
Are there any questions? Any comments? Is everyone comfortable moving this forward? Okay. And then the next item is discussion on advance of $500,000 in 2024 bond proceeds to the Columbus Utilities.
He's looking at me. All right, so the utilities, with not having the bond issue present with the cash available, needs to have a float. So we discussed how much they need, and at current they were holding back some bills, and it was upwards of, it was going to be heading towards around $300,000, so we agreed on about $500,000, which is less than they're going to be getting from the bond. So that's basically it.
Any questions? Alder Motive?
So you're saying they'll be able to pay us back as soon as they get the bond?
Well, we'll get all the bond proceeds and then distribute. Mm-hmm. So we'll subtract the $500,000 from the bond proceeds when it does come.
Okay.
Yep. Just very simple.
Any other questions? Is everybody comfortable moving that forward? Okay. Then I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Anyone's wondering, Milwaukee Brewers are still the team from my childhood ruining my dreams. Tonight's the first game? No, it's 4.
No.
Because you're now hopeless romantic adult, yes. Someday. Someday there'll be a World Series.
I hope in my lifetime.
When I'm not.
You guys are better than me. I'm a Pirates fan, so.
The Pirates have won a World Series. 1979. Willie Stargell, Manny Sam, Guillen, how many? I can probably name 3/4 of their team.
Okay.
73 and 79.
You're a Pirates fan?
Is
that what you said?
That's my second team.
Oh, okay.
Steelers and Pirates are the second.
Tonight's Common Council meeting of Tuesday, October 1st. Welcome to those that are also watching on the cable channel. And could I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive. Present. Reed. Here. Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
Thank you. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I acknowledge this meeting was also posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. And I would look at this for, at this time, a approval of tonight's agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted and a second by Alder Finkler to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Public comment for tonight's meeting? None? Okay. And with that, we would look at approval of the consent agenda, which is the Special Committee of the Whole, Council, and Committee of the Whole minutes from September 17th of 2024, and then also consider the application for the Columbus Christmas House street closing on December 14th, 2024, from 3 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted and a second by Alder Roki to approve tonight's consent agenda. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we will move on to Ordinance 795-24, and that would be an ordinance to repeal certain sections of Chapters 90 and 114 and to create Chapter 47 of the City Code concerning construction site erosion and sediment control. There was a public hearing held on September 12th, and Plan Commission also recommended the approval. So at this time, I would be looking for a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, a second by Alder Motif to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? And then next, I would look for a motion to waive the readings.
I'll move to waive the readings.
I'll second.
Motion by Alder Rolke, a second by Alder Motif to waive the readings. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then next, we'd look for a motion to accept Ordinance 795-24 to repeal certain sections of Chapters 90 and 114 and to create Chapter 47 concerning construction site erosion and sediment control.
I'll move to approve the acceptance of Ordinance 795-24, an ordinance to repeal certain sections of Chapters 90 and 114 and to create Chapter 47 of the City Code concerning construction site erosion and sediment control.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to new business. And that, let me get caught up here. And that would be to consider and take action on task order number 2024 or 2404 with Ruckert and Melke in the amount of $11,250 related to the Udi Dam. And this is a recommendation by Wisconsin DNR to have the dam inspected after the serious flooding that we had earlier in the year.
I'll move to approve task order number 2404 with Ruckert and Melke in the amount of $11,250 related to the Udi Dam.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Michael? Yes.
The order number and the agenda is wrong. It's actually task order 2024-04. Looks like it.
Okay. I'll move to amend my motion to be task order number 2024-04 instead of 2404.
I will still second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Motive.
Aye.
Roki.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Rostad.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next on the agenda is to consider and take action on the 2025 budget ad for publishing for the public hearing, and that would take place on October 29th of 2024. Says here 6:30 p.m. Is that when the budget hearing was going to be? I thought the budget hearing was going to be at 6. It was 6:30. Okay, I'm just clarification, so.
Alder Motive will make a motion to approve the 2025 budget ad for publishing. Do we need anything more than that?
No.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motive, second by Alder Roki. Any further discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Then we would look at taking action on the advance of $500,000 in 2024 bond proceeds to Columbus Utilities.
Make a motion to approve the advance of $500,000 on the bond to the Columbus Utilities.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Roki, a second by Alder Finkler. Any further discussion on this? Does this need to be a roll call with an advance of the money?
I would.
It would be a good idea.
Okay, roll call, please.
Lawson.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Motive.
Aye.
Roki.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, and then next on the agenda would be to take action on the claims in the amount of $346,616.42.
I'll move to pay the claims of $346,616.42.
Motive will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson and a second by Alder Motive to pay the claims. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Finkler.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Roki.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
And reports of city officers, City Administrator Amundson.
I'll be brief in that I had the opportunity to attend the Oktoberfest on Saturday at Fireman's Park. Want to thank the Odd Fellows for providing that community event. Was also able to stroll through the art and author fair, and kids activities was a good community event. Also had the opportunity today, and I know the mayor will speak to this as well, to attend Quick Trip's grand opening. Was great to see Quick Trip management, administration, ownership there, as well as a great turnout of their staff at the store. Both the fire department and police department were presented with $1,000 checks in donations that they'll be utilizing, and both Chief Hazeltine, Chief Weiner, and Mayor Hammer had opportunities to speak at the grand opening as well. So that's all I have.
Okay. Last month, I attended the WPPI Energy Annual Conference. They provided updates on energy sources and purchase power contracts. I was honored to participate in the grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony at Quick Trip. I had the opportunity to talk to the Quick Trip CEO, Scott Zietlow, and his wife. I also had a very nice conversation with Mandy Genord, I think is her name, the current Miss Wisconsin. Just a delightful young lady. Sunday, October 6th, is the Columbus Fire Department open house from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., so please show up and show your support. 12 to 4. Okay. So 12 to 4 it is? I got this off of whatever, so, okay. And then October 6th through the 12th is Public Power Week. Columbus Utilities is one of about 2,000 not-for-profit public power utilities in the nation. Utilities are owned by the city, and they are governed by community members. And then currently there is an opening on the Utility Commission. So if interested in serving, please fill out the online application.
Mayor.
And that's all I have, so yes.
The danger in not writing down. One more quick announcement. Next Tuesday, we'll be holding a public information meeting at the high school cafeteria for the proposed stormwater improvements to Fireman's Park. That meeting will start at 6 p.m. It'll be an open house format. There are no current plans, so we want to hear from the community both on how those proposed improvements can be implemented in the park, the impacts to the park, and future park improvements will all be part of the planned agenda for that meeting. Again, that's Tuesday, October 8th, 6 p.m., Columbus High School cafeteria.
All right, thank you. And at this time, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, a second by Alder Rosted to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.
Everybody good with this rolling right through? All right. In that case, I'd like to welcome everybody once again to the Committee of the Whole of Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. It is 6:47 p.m., and at this time, I would like a roll call, please.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive. Present. Reed. Here. Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. If I could have a motion.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item is, actually, first, within your packet are committee minutes for file from beautification of 9/9/24 and library from 8/20/24, and then also a treasurer's report from 8 of 24. And public comment. First, I have Henry Elling. If you please come and state your name and address.
Happens every. There we go. Good evening. I'm Henry Elling, 650 South Charles Street here in Columbus, and I'm here tonight to speak to two items on your agenda. The first regarding item number 4, the preliminary plat for Cardinal Heights. I am appointed by the Church Council of Faith Lutheran Church to be a nominal representative to the city for these activities. Because of that, the developer and the city staff reached out to me regarding an easement that's proposed for the church property. If you're looking at the map of the project, it's on the far right-hand bottom corner along Park Avenue. It's not within the property, it's on the church property. And it's an easement proposed for sanitary sewer purposes so that they can make a connection to the existing sewer on the southeast or southwest side of Park Avenue. Our church council has looked at this. We don't have any final documentation, obviously, because it's still the preliminary plat, but the initial indication from the church council is that they have no objection to the concept of a sanitary sewer easement. We would look for the formal document, and our expectation is the easement would be to the city of Columbus, not the developer. So I wanted to make sure that that was part of the record for your conversation tonight. The second item I'd like to talk to is number 6, the operating budget. And on that item, I'm here on behalf of the Historic Preservation and Landmarks Commission. There is a small change to the document from previous documents. The section for the Historic Preservation Commission has been zeroed out, and the monies for that have been placed into a separate line under the planner's document items. It's line 100-511421-310. Sorry, I don't know what page that is in your packet there. When I looked online, it was page 110, so good luck. The comment I have is the title of that line item is Planner: Operating Expenses. And I'm just wondering, and I did talk with the treasurer before the meeting about this, is there a different title that we can give to that so that it's easier for everyone to assume what those expenses are for? As an operating expense, it could be binders, it could be a new computer, it could be some other operational expense that may or may not be related to Historic Preservation Commission. And so that's my question. As I said, I did talk to the treasurer. If you want to go further with that, that'd be fine. But I just wanted to make that comment for the record. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now, but I'll stick around for those 2 items as well.
Henry, can you repeat the number you said?
Sure, it's 100, it's under planner.
On page 6.
Okay, there you go. Page 6 at the top. It's line 100-511421-310.
Page 153,
For the
item 6?
For the council's, for the committee's benefit, both Crystal and I know where this is, and we can address it at the time that it comes up in the budget. I don't think that the request is out of line.
Thank you.
Accommodative.
Thank you. And then the other name signed up is Kelly Crombie. If you would please come and state your name and address.
Kelly Crombie, 641 North Ludington. Just to talk about, I'm a little shorter than Henry, sorry. Just to talk about the budget. I was just looking at a couple years of past tax bills, and it was essentially flat. I think I had a 1.5% increase on mine the last 3 years. 1 year was even a little bit negative. So just when you're preparing the budget, I think now more than ever in keeping municipal employees, it's looking at a meaningful increase, and I think just trying to make sure that is a meaningful increase. I think this year, the city nearly had a repeat of 2008 with the flooding in June, and you've seen, emergency services and everyone from the city come together to try and, save property and protect lives was significant. And then also just to keep thinking about the stormwater utility as, budgets continue to get tougher and tougher. It's really more of a utility function that would free up considerable money, I think, in the general fund to help, fund the stormwater utility as an actual utility that would spread it out amongst all the users, not just the properties that pay taxes. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then is there anybody else who wanted to speak who did not get a chance to sign in? Okay. First item for discussion is the conditional use permit to allow outdoor storage at 115 Commercial Drive, Lyco Manufacturing. Mike, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Thank you. This is the Plan Commission recommended approval of this conditional use permit at its most recent meeting. It's essentially allowing for outdoor storage that includes some fencing with privacy slats to provide that the items being stored are not viewed from the public. there was a few conditions. The Plan Commission recommended that the applicant follow the submitted site plan, have a fence height not to exceed 8 feet. Chain link fence must contain privacy slats. Outdoor storage must stay on paved storage area. Changes in the storage area, cement pad or fencing must get approval to amend the conditional use permit. Outdoor storage to stay within the fenced area. So those were the conditions, and no one from the public spoke in opposition. So it passed unanimously from the Plan Commission.
Does anybody have any questions, comments? Are we all comfortable moving this one forward for a vote? Okay, thank you. Next item for discussion is review of preliminary plat for Cardinal Heights, 1400 Park Avenue. And Mike, that's you also.
All right. The preliminary plat is consistent with the development agreement adopted by the City Council earlier in the year. The current, what you see before you, there are 17 single-family lots and 1 multifamily lot. Some of the issues, just be aware that our city engineer did provide a review letter, and the Plan Commission did recommend approval of the plat with the condition that all comments in the review letter be addressed, except that Lot 2 shall have access to Park Avenue. And that Lot 2 is the existing farmhouse, and there's a current driveway there, and there's some discussion about whether or not that farmhouse should access the cul-de-sac rather than Park Avenue. So there is a decent amount of discussion on that, and the Plan Commission ultimately recommended that the driveway should stay and have access to Park Avenue since it's been there for so long. One of the other issues on the preliminary plat is the DOT has a 50-foot setback along the way. DOT does allow public infrastructure in that 50-foot, but not private. So one of the recommendations in the letter, review letter, was to address that 50-foot setback. Right now, currently, Lot 18 is primarily in that 50-foot setback area. There is an opportunity for the applicant to get a variance from DOT on this, and I believe they are pursuing that. That's my understanding. Of course, sanitary sewer, you heard about that earlier in the evening. That's going to cross at a 90-degree angle in front of the church property, and then through a public easement to the city, go along the road there. So, so all the lots meet zoning for R3 and R4, and of course they'll still have to get that final approval of the rezoning of the property as well for this plat. Any questions? And the applicant is here tonight as well, so if you would like to ask questions of the applicant, he is here.
Alder Lawson?
So what happens if the variance isn't approved by DOT?
Then when the final plat comes through, that lot would have to be, that lot could be there, but it doesn't look, let me, excuse me, some adjustments in the lot sizes in 14 through 18 would have to be made. That lot, or that lot 18 would have to go away. So there would be some adjustments at the final plat, but the general layout would remain the same.
Alder Finkler?
Yeah. Why is there a homeowners association document within here?
That's one of the requirements of the platting process, and that was one of the things that was in the review letter to make sure those documents are submitted. And perhaps our city attorney can add his input to that as well.
Yeah, and I just I want to ask about this because I am in the Highland Ridge neighborhood, and there, on my half of the neighborhood, there is not an association, and the other half, they dissolved the association. So I wanted to know why now all of a sudden we're going back association-wise. Do we have to initially?
A homeowners association is at the option of the developer. The city is not requiring that at this point. And it's generally put together so that the landowners within the plat pool their resources to provide for whatever whatever common expenses that have to be taken care of. At this point, I haven't looked through the homeowners association document, but that's on the developer if they want to do that or not. It's not a requirement of the city.
So it's not something the city approves or denies?
The city will review it to make sure that it's consistent with city zoning code, city subdivision ordinances. But as far as like cost sharing or management or governance of the association, no, the city won't have a horse in that race.
Okay.
Alder Rosted, I think I saw your light first.
Page 38, under city infrastructure. The stormwater pond built within outlet 1 per the development agreement will be dedicated to the public, and the city will take over the maintenance upon final acceptance of the basin. Was that in the original paperwork that wasn't provided to us when we approved the?
You mean with the development agreement?
Correct, because there's a lot of stuff missing. Is this one of the items?
I think this follows the current city practice in terms of past development. Past development has followed that process of the stormwater being dedicated to the city to maintain.
And the main reason for that is that stormwater pond is collecting water from the public street. So that's a public service. It's, the impact is from the street. So that's why it's that easement and that stormwater pond will be with the city.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my main question was also on the HOA and wondering if we as a body have a choice on to create or deny it. I'm assuming it's on the developers and to make sure that the properties are in beautiful condition until they're sold. Do the final homeowners have a say once they're in place on voting to keep or dissolve it?
No, but it's a good question if I can figure out how to answer it shortly. The developer will create the homeowners association most likely before any of the lots are sold. And then once all of the lots are sold, the developer will turn over the association to the association itself, which will then be made up of the 17 or 18, depending on how many lots there are, homeowners. And once the developer steps back, then the homeowners are on their own to govern that. And in the homeowners association documents, there'll be governance provisions. Here's how we elect the president. Here's when we meet, things like that. And as Molly said, there are times when homeowners associations dissolve, and that gets to be a little bit ugly, but that's not a city problem, and that's not a developer problem. That's on the homeowners association itself.
Any other questions? Oh, Alder Rosted?
Yeah, so I don't know if these are for Josh or the attorney. A constituent reached out, and they have 3 questions on the HOA. So will the HOA have power for foreclosure? Many do. I couldn't find it in the agreement we have here.
For foreclosure of what?
I would assume they meant the property they own within the HOA. One of the 17 lots is my guess. They didn't specify in the email.
Like I said, I have not read through the HOA document yet that's being proposed here, but normally the Well, technically, the homeowners association, I suppose, could initiate a foreclosure action, but I've never seen that done. And the foreclosure action would come for failure of a homeowner, of an adjoining homeowner to pay their fair share. Usually there's a lien process that's set up in the homeowners association document that says, here's your annual fair share that you have to pay, and if you don't pay it, we put a lien on your property. Technically, once the lien's in place, it could be foreclosed. I've never seen that done.
Okay, and another question is this HOA required to disclose its rules to potential buyers? Many are not obligated to disclose their rules until after there is an accepted offer.
The homeowners association document, give me just a second. The homeowners association document is normally recorded with the Register of Deeds office, and it looks like this one might be as well. And that is the document that any any land buyer will have the opportunity to review before they purchase the property. The reality of the situation is that a very large percentage of people who buy lots don't ever look at those. But it is there, it's a public document, and if it is recorded, then it is available for them to review.
Okay, and then the last one they had was who will be administering this HOA, issuing its citations, enforcing its rules, etc.?
Not the city.
Okay, so it falls.
If I have anything to say about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Is everybody comfortable moving this forward? Okay, thank you. Next item for discussion is discussion of capital improvements plan 2025 through 2029.
Just in terms of a housekeeping here, we have a PowerPoint that Crystal and I are going to work through, kind of highlighting the budget process, where we're at, where we're heading. It's going to encompass all of the next 3 items on the agenda, and we'll try and pause when we move from one to the other so that you can give us direction and then move into that next agenda item. And if we get ahead of ourselves, we'll slow down and let you catch up. The screens in front of you do not work and have not worked, so David, are you able to adjust the lights for us?
Just everything together, the 2 items.
Yeah, wow.
Because the capital is later first.
So really dark.
Oh, come on, I'm not going to be able to read.
In terms of budget process and timeline, this evening is the budget work session, public information session. You've already authorized the public hearing notice that'll be updated to reflect discussion and direction from this evening's meeting. October 14th is our deadline for publication of the budget hearing. At the October 15th meeting, the council could consider the proposed 2024 budget and incorporate any changes at that time. October 29th is the public budget hearing is held, and the council could consider approving the budget as well as the property tax levy. If there are further discussions, revisions needed at the October 29th meeting, we'd hold a optional special meeting on November 12th to incorporate any of those changes from the public hearing and present the budget and property tax levy. So that's kind of the timeline of what's ahead. Our 2025 budget priorities, I'm just quickly going, I'm not going to read to you, just highlighting some things here. Continued efforts with employee wages and benefits, our implementation of our 5-year CIP that we've worked to develop. And then, I highlighted here information technology. I think that's been a big part of what we've done with our transition to RIME and trying to modernize some of our practices and implement technology where appropriate, and continue our efforts with community outreach, citizen engagement, and collaboration. Numbers impacting the budget, and again, this is we're gonna veer out of the capital and into the operating, and hopefully you're okay with that, and we'll come back to those as the agenda identifies. But our costs affecting increase to revenue budget, we've got increase in state shared revenue, increase in connecting highway aid, and increase in grant participation by a number of our departments. Costs impacting our increases in expenses. We continue to see inflation playing a factor for I think pretty much every department, and looking at trends, right, of knowing costs have increased for services and products. There is a proposed general wage increase of 3%, as well as a proposed 4% or a required 4% increase as part of our agreement with union. We've included a zoning rewrite, repeal and replacement. This has been a past discussion. This is a big impact on the general fund as an additional $150,000 expense. To try and mitigate that, we've shown $75,000 in the 2025 budget, which would require that same commitment in 2026. Kind of a graph showing when you get your property tax bill, there are 4 entities that receive a portion of that. The Madison Area Technical College, the Columbus School District, the City of Columbus, and Columbia County. You can see we're estimating that the 2024 tax bill, about 3.7% of your overall bill goes to Madison Area Technical College, 40% will go to the school district, 37.2% to the city, and 19.1% to Columbia County. Property values, I think everyone in the room is aware that we've just completed an assessment, and that those numbers are not complete for 2024, but you can see that our assessed value and equalized value. The equalized value is steadily increased, whereas the assessed value has made a sizable jump here in 2024. This is consistent with everything I've seen from every community that has had this assessment process. Again, by state law, we're required to do that every 5 years, and it's a market value assessment is what the state of Wisconsin requires. Our general obligation debt projected over the past, well, you can see the 5-year trend there of our actual GO debt is the blue line at the bottom. The gray line in the middle shows our city's policy limit of the maximum that we can go to, as well as the yellow line shows the state's debt limit. There's a number of capital projects included. We'll go through those in more detail. We can kind of see there are projects funded both in our 2024 bond issue as well as our proposed 2025 bond issue. There's some carryover funding, and there are some planned TIF projects there as well, with the newly created TIF 7 that was finalized earlier this evening by the Joint Review Board. How are tax dollars spent in the city? I'm not going to spend a lot of time highlighting this, but you can kind of see a lot of similar trends in how the levy is calculated. The city property tax levy, you can kind of see the changes from 2023 to the estimated 2024. The budget, the amended copy of the budget that was sent out yesterday or added to the packets yesterday is a 9.96% increase to the levy. You have the breakdown of those general fund expenditures, which are...
It's just the pie chart and the one that follows are the same thing. They're just a different display. One is by percentage in the pie, and then this is the dollars that go with it.
So you can kind of see the breakdown here by different categories in the budget of the changes from 23 to 24. A lot of these are, when you take the 3% of the salary increase and the cost of inflation for services, that is really where you're seeing some of the changes in numbers. And you'll note that the actual general fund expenditures show a decrease from 23 to 24. Historical tax rate information.
Just a note on that, I know it's a little confusing when you see a general fund levy going up, but you see the general fund going down. And the biggest thing there to remember is that we had a budget amendment that was not part of the calculation of last year's levy. So that right there makes a big shift in what we're looking at, because we have a 2023 budget that included the amended budget after we implemented the levy. And now we have a new budget year going forward from that.
So the historical tax rate, the blue line shows the city's general levy, which is really relatively flat. And then you have the total levy, all jurisdictions. And Crystal can explain, this is tied to the assessment, correct? The
Yes.
change in assessment. So we have formulated a tax bill and kind of showing history here. This is on an average assessed home in Columbus, which I'm going to cheat. That number is $262,700. That is the average assessed value of a home in Columbus. And so we have kind of prepared a tax bill here with the current budget, the amended budget that was sent out or added to packets yesterday, is projecting on that average assessed home a increase in the city portion of taxes of $383.81. Do you want to talk any more about what this slide is showing?
Well, the top part is, if you go back a few slides, once you have some time, maybe in the upcoming week, to look in more detail again, that these slides go progressively from showing what's budget, showing what's levy. It calculates down to a mill rate, which is what you see there was the dollars, or the 6.84 for the city. So our city levy starts, that's the basis for calculating all of the taxes that are going to end up on your tax bill. So once we've calculated that, I did take some estimates for the other jurisdictions on what I'm predicting may happen there, and then I came up with an estimated full tax bill. So that's what I'm displaying here, is this could potentially be your full tax bill on the bottom half.
That's a lot of unknowns in terms of the school district and how that all factors in, correct?
Yeah, unless they throw a really wrench at me, I'm usually pretty close. So
Okay.
we'll see over the next month.
I've got an error here. It's not a $262,007 home. There's an extra zero there. But this shows a breakdown of your tax bill on that average assessed value of what your tax dollars that you pay to the city goes to in terms of each department. So on that average assessed bill, a little over $500, the police department, Public Works gets $373. Financial services, which includes treasurer, contingency, assessment, around $200. Media, legal, technology. This was kind of a catch-all, $184. Fire department, $133. Aquatics, community center, recreation, $95. Library, just under $72. Administrator and elected officials, around just short of $51. Economic development, $48.53. Clerk and elections, a little over $40. Parks comes in at just under $38. Emergency medical services, about $32.36, and emergency management, $539. These numbers, there's a lot that goes into this, and this might not have encapsulated all of our revenues and how each department, but this is really close breakdown. I wanted to do this because this is a question that often is asked. It kind of shows how what you're paying for as an average taxpayer. Questions. I anticipate a lot of questions. In terms of the information I shared by email and this presentation, we put the finishing touches on that just before noon today. We will get this presentation posted to our website tomorrow and accessible to anyone who wants to take a further look. Again, the information I shared options of getting to, right now we're at right around a 10% increase to the levy. I shared what an 8% and what a 4% increase would look like. 8% would be another reduction of about $86,000 to $89,000 in our overall operating budget. That's attainable. We can work with departments and fine-tune things and get to those cuts. And I've got a number of departments who have shared solutions in how to get there. The next number of getting to 4% is like a $280,000 reduction. I don't see an avenue of getting there without cutting our services. And I don't know, we would need direction from the council in terms of what service cuts to make at that point. It's just my honest recommendation on where we're at. As we get to the operating budget, we can go through this in any way, format that you want. We can highlight things. We can answer specific questions that you may have. Also, we have a number of the staff here tonight to help answer those as well. What I'd really like to do now is kind of jump into the topic at hand, which is the capital budget. And again, Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, the decisions we make in terms of the capital budget and what we borrow will not change any of our 2024 numbers. They will impact our 2025 budget in terms of the debt service amount. What we are working with Ellers, and Ellers will be here at our on the October 15th meeting, we're trying to get to a consistent level of borrowing so that our debt service stays consistent year to year and isn't changing. We do have a proposed increase in debt service based on our borrowing for 2024.
Right. So you all did receive Eller's preliminary packet. There are several items which I'm working on with them. They've set all of our future next 5. We're just focusing right now on the next 5 years of capital. And what he means by one of the things you need to understand about trying to keep things a consistent level takes into account when you look at not just the total do you have a question? No. Oh, not just the total dollar you're borrowing, but the number of years you're structuring the payback. So say you're planning on purchasing vehicles at the same time you're purchasing a building. Well, you don't amortize them the same length. They have a different life. So your vehicles are going to be a 3 to 5 year, whereas your buildings could be even 35 year. But we have, when you do bonding, you amortize for the 18 to 20 year. So when this initial one was put together, which we're going to be modifying this week when we meet with Ellers, is a lot of the ones we have in here were put to 10-year instead of what we're asking for a 20-year stretch on these to make things a little bit more level. So we have street projects in there. These street projects, you're not going to go rip them up in less than 10 years, and I would predict longer. So some of these items are going to be spread out a little bit more. So the end result is to have a leveled set of borrowing and paybacks that's consistent, so you're not having big, huge increases, a drop, big increases, or a drop, and keeping it more level so that you know what to expect year to year, if that makes sense. So right now, the plan that's in here, we are working on it. The 2024 bond, there's a couple of, there's two things that Eller has shown us that we're going to be bringing forward in 2 weeks. And the two differences are that the utilities bought a truck this year, and the cost of repaying that over that loan that they have, we can do better if we put it into the bond. And the other item was going ahead and getting the rest of the money for the fire truck that we're paying half for, coming up by 2026. Going ahead and funding that now. I have a potential to get a little bit of a discount if I can talk them into it if we prepay. So the anticipation is that if we don't prepay, we put it in the LGIP and it earns a good interest rate. We're right now, in the 5% interest rate with that. So those are two additionals that we can put into the 2024 bond. That does affect next year's principal and interest that's in the debt service fund. That changes and produces an increase to the levy. So the idea of our 2024 streets being longer than 10 years, that will make it change. So I've already kind of come up with some numbers and factored it into the budget already, but I will know how close I get when I work with Ellers. So the 2024 bond is what you're seeing reflected in the 2025 budget. And I did calculate, I know that in the slideshow you'll have, hold on, I'm going to jump to debt, but we can go back and discuss anything that's in the capital projects. But with it affecting debt, I just wanted to point out that when the slide, go ahead and pull the slide up with the debt levels and the debt limits. Yep. Oh, yeah, right there, right down below this one. All right, so this slide is showing the debt levels. Okay, what I gave you last year and that you'll see in your packet next time, I have notes that I give you now that the slideshow's been presented. Any changes to the budget, I will give you the same update sheet and I provide a little bit of information. So one of the things in there that you asked last year that I'm keeping track of for you is the levy limit and how much is included in the levy limit. So right now with the budget that we have, 2023 in the levy limit as we produced it and agreed to the levy, and it was $220,050. This year with the increase in debt and the structure currently, as I've modified it a little bit, we're looking at the amount that we need to add to incorporate in for our levy limit is $556,000. So it still keeps us well within our levy limits. The amount of debt that we could put in is $1,080,000. We're putting in $556,000. Does that make sense, or give me a question back? Okay, so we have our levy limit. I've got the levy limit worksheet as we produce it. The levy itself, if we didn't need extra to pay our debt, well, then great. But we do use debt to help pay back for these borrowings, and you can include it in your levy. And like I said, last year we were up to including $220,000. We're now going to include $556,000. Okay, that's what I wanted to get out so far.
I want to dive into the capital projects and get some direction in terms of where we want to go. So I just want to highlight, I'm going to highlight the projects identified in 2025. We have 4 vehicles slated for replacement. There is in the fire department, Command Truck 90. That is a $65,500 purchase. As Crystal alluded to, City Engine 92, our portion of paying that vehicle is $239,064. There's a police department squad vehicle scheduled each year. The 2025 number for that is $85,000. And there is a Public Works 3/4 ton pickup for $35,000. So that is a total for vehicles of $424,564. Also in Public Works, there's a replacement of a 1998 backhoe for $120,000.
And that's under the title large equipment, so you have vehicles. Sorry, I don't have my summary page in front of me.
The next project is $30,000 to reimagine City Hall administration offices, create a central reception point, and improve some of the office layout. I debate back and forth whether to include this or not, and I guess I'm looking for direction from the council on, is this something that we want to entertain? I know I've talked to some of you about this. City Hall, for anyone who's coming here for the first time, can be a little bit confusing in terms of where you go. The idea would be is to entertain an architect and work through how we could better utilize the space. But at the same time, I don't know that this is something we want to pursue or not. I'll continue to go through, and then we can have some discussion on what things we want to include or remove. Public Works, replacement of a heater in their main shop for $12,000, and to replace the barricade shed, which is on its last legs, for $10,000. Safe routes to school, this is the pedestrian crossing lights, $25,000. Police Department, replacing a furnace for $55,000. City Hall HVAC, the City Hall Annex, $10,000. Addressing ADA compliance at the Fire Department for $25,000. And repair of a crack in concrete by the slide at the Aquatic Center for $23,000. So roof replacement project at the cemetery for $15,000. The community center roof project, including the ceiling tile, for $154,000. Work at the Scout cabin in Fireman's Park, estimated at $13,700. A bubbler replacement and pickleball nets and fence at Fireman's Park. And then this is a pavilion project working with Enerpac on a potential donation, and the Enerpac would cover the cost of the shelter or the pavilion. We would be, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. This is at Fireman's Park. This is addressing.
Go back to the bubbler, because that actually is in our operating budget, and you're right, it did need to come off of here.
Okay.
Yep, because
So
we're
that-
handling it through grant, and half of it's getting paid through the grant, so that's one of the little items that will get off. so-
Removed.
Sorry about that.
The pavilion, there's a parking lot, ADA access ramp and entry. I believe this is a carryover. Is this already funded in '24? That's
This
something
is
we
the
need to check
carryover
on.
piece?
That's something we need to check on. And then there's planning for the HVAC upgrades to the pavilion, which would occur in '26. There's a plan review per the state that needs to happen a year prior, and that's a $5,000 cost in 2025. What I was getting to earlier was the Warner Park project. Enerpac is looking to fundraise to donate a shelter. I have suggested that we need to address parking and ADA compliance if that shelter were to go in, and I've estimated a rough estimate in working with the city engineer of $50,000 to address what we would need to do to allow for the shelter to be placed and constructed. Street projects in 2025, Brookside, Avalon to the end is a $310,000 projected cost. And that's contemplated in our 2024 borrowing, correct?
I'm sorry, which one?
The Brookside Streets project?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have our annual street maintenance. That's our crack seal.
Oh, Brookside's TIF 7.
Okay.
Yep. And we're working on that in the debt plan, yes.
All right. We've done roughly $90,000 a year in street maintenance work. That's crack seal. What else do we include there, Jason?
Paving, patching, and slurry seal.
And then $10,000 towards sidewalk maintenance and repair. And the 2025, 2026 areas are identified. I think that concludes our capital plan projects that would be borrowed for.
Oh, stormwater. That was the next page.
Oh, yeah, so stormwater, the Fireman's Park project is being included in TIF 7. That will be paid for through
that's a typo.
the TID. Yeah.
Sorry, typo. I know, I just said typo.
It's a typo.
Sorry.
Should be a 7. Okay,
Are we asking questions?
please.
Okay. I know, going back to Fireman's Park, that you said you needed to take out the bubbler replacement because that's going to be covered by a grant. But the pickleball nets and fence, it says is to be funded with donations. Does that need to stay there then?
I think there's an overall concern about the project that it's come from a really good place in that there's clearly demand for pickleball. There's a lot of interest. It's a growing sport. We don't have a engineered design project. We don't have a stormwater plan in a park that we're talking about major stormwater. So we've kind of held off on any moving forward with the donated funds to do that work. And that the idea is as we go through the stormwater project and work on a park master plan, that we come up with a more defined plan of what that project is and the cost of that project. There were some things not included in the initial cost estimate, including nets, and there may be some additional costs needed there to address things and do them in a way that they're done right.
Okay, so the donations are not going to cover it.
The
We're not
donated
sure
funds
that all
to
of it
this
will.
Okay.
to this date are not going to cover the entire implementation of the project.
Okay, and is it doable? You were saying that there needs to be some stormwater stuff first. So is it something that would be best done in 2026?
I think it can be done in 2025, but we need to kind of like, obviously next Tuesday night's public information meeting is step one in putting that work together.
Okay, thank you.
And then next year, we would, throughout the beginning parts of the year and getting ready and planning for the summer is when we would do the final discussion and approvals of what's going into the 2025 bond. So we're anticipating certain things for the bond, just like we did this year, and we're modifying a little bit now. And hopefully we're ahead of the whole track next year. When we go to that 2025 bond, we'll already know what we need to have in it. And these are the things we're anticipating.
Alder Osted?
So on the pickleball, though, I just don't want to drag our feet because there are a lot of people that did donate and that are looking for what's the word I'm trying to say? An update on where their money sits. So I think it should be a priority I get the city should have stake as well, Because they're footing a majority of the bill as donated.
Can I just jump in here and just say, I want pickleball courts at Fireman's Park. I also want them done right, and I don't want them to be a complete mess 2 years after we put them in.
Yep.
We've got to do it right. We've got to have a plan.
But we also want to follow city policy on procurement too, and establishing contracts and bids and so forth too. So that was a step back in looking at how we're moving forward, implementing the project. But also to remind you, we have a special parks fund where all of those donations have been tracked for the last 2.5 years. So you have a special parks fund where all that money is accumulated and held. And it's Fund 245. Anything pickleball has been going into that fund for the whole time. So we do track those in that separate fund.
What page are you looking at?
Special Parks Fund, Fund 245 is on page 28. And you're looking at basically the income and expenses. The fund balance is all in there for the last 2 to 3 years. It's in there.
So the Fireman's Park donations line holds $42,668.14, or that's the projected number
For this year. So all the history is still in the fund.
Okay. And then on the fire side, the remainder are due. That to go off of this sheet, right? So we have 370, 341.11 in an account. This 239 makes up the remainder of what we owe.
Of our share, of our 50% share.
Okay.
Correct.
And then my only concern is the command vehicle. That was a donated vehicle through Enbridge. And if I remember right, we got it, well, I know I remember because it's on the city website. We got it in 2016 with, I believe, around 130,000. And the last meeting we had, the estimated mileage on it was like 178, so like 180. So we've had it for 8 years and put 48,000 miles. That's 6,000 miles a year, and we want to spend $65,000. I don't know if that's a fair spend in my eyes. For 6,000 miles a year. I don't think it's nickel and dimed us yet for repair, has it?
I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is, you'll remember last meeting we had the presentation or the mock-up of a lease program from Enterprise. And their business model is based off of that city vehicles travel between 56 and 6,500 miles a year. So the fact that this vehicle is traveling 6,000 miles a year is roughly right in that ballpark. And what they're saying is, to have an effective vehicle replacement program, you should be changing your vehicles out every 5 years to maximize resale value of the vehicles. So we're caught in this. We have some vehicles that are 23 years old. We have other vehicles that are 6, 7, 8 years old. And if we want to move into a more aggressive where we're maximizing the resale value to invest back into our fleet, we're going to have to make some decisions on how we get there. And I don't know if Scott wants to address this item specifically. He's going to have more detail and information on why the decision to do this vehicle than I do.
Yeah, the departments are here to answer your questions too.
You can. You want to be up there? Or can...
Please come up to the mic.
Okay. Right now we're in our third week of the Command 90 we're talking about now is in the shop at Napleton. We've been struggling with it's a hybrid, so it shifts back and forth, and it's been jerking on us lately. And we've played with it to keep it running. Initial quote was $7,000 for just to fix that. And when we took it in the shop, it was now when it goes into when it switches over to the hybrid, it just goes in and coasts. So you can't go forwards, can't go backwards. You got to tap the feet to get it to come back into the engine part of it. So they're getting parts for that right now, and that was a $2,000 fix. I got approved through Matt, and the module came in, and it's one of the first hybrids made by Chevy. And it's got 2 different models, and the model that they need for this one, they got to try to find a different wiring harness because they discontinued that one, and it's a connection that doesn't match with what they have now. So they're checking junkyards all over their contacts with Napleton, and GM's supposed to, I just talked to them this afternoon, they're supposed to get back to me tomorrow, give me an update tomorrow morning on if they found something, if GM's going to make a part for it. So it jerks hard enough that I think the U-joint's going to snap on it. So that's where we're at with the command truck.
So you said that they're going to have to, they more than likely will have to make a special part. GM will have to make the part?
If they will, yeah. You just don't know yet. They're supposed to give me Napleton's supposed to get back to me in the morning of what GM said.
Okay. But what vehicle did the city just buy last year for the fire department?
98.
And the city fully funded that, correct?
Yep.
And there's nothing, the city has to fully fund a command vehicle? I suppose there's nothing in the road group but
no, I just signed the contract. I asked them and they said no. It's not the contract, they weren't going to do it. So and the 65.5 that's including the install of radios, lights, lettering, all that. So.
When do we renegotiate that?
27. The real contract?
Yeah.
I think 27.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The 65.5, is that for a new vehicle?
Yeah.
Ryan, did you have further questions?
I get with what Chief Hazeltine has expressed with concern. I retract, and I think it would be a wise move on our end then to move forward.
Any other questions?
Mayor Hammer?
Not for
all good?
Scott.
All right.
Any other questions for Chief?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't a question. I just really appreciate finding out the backstory and that it's not just we think it's time for replacement, could possibly get more money. I find it very useful to have an awareness of what equipment might be in danger of having expensive failures. So I do appreciate the illumination. Yeah, I do want to have a discussion at some point, just looking at options for our vehicles behind, beyond the enterprise idea. I mean, while it sounds really good to sell off our vehicles earlier to try and gain more funds, I just feel at this point that we're more likely to incur expenses faster if there isn't a particular mechanical reason.
Mayor Hammer?
Okay. Just had a question in regards to the pedestrian crossing lights. Could that be a share with the school district?
So the reason I'm sitting here hemming and hawing is I'm frustrated that a document didn't get included that had, I know I had it in front of you at the last time we discussed the capital budget, and it showed how things were being paid for, and that item was a 50-50 split that I had intended to explore both grant funding as well as collaboration with the school district on potential funding of that project as well.
Alder Finkler?
Yeah, I have a few items. So I know you mentioned the $30,000 for the admin office redesign. I'm wondering if it makes better sense for us to hold off on this in 2025 due to the public safety building study that's going on.
I agree completely.
It's already paid.
Okay. The next thing I have is, the Warner Park. So that's $50,000 to do the improvements to the parking lot because NRPAC wants to fundraise for a shelter.
So can I take a step back and maybe better explain?
Yes, please.
If you're familiar with the Warner Park site, we have a lift station on that property that has a gravel parking lot, which we would not allow a private or public, we don't allow gravel parking lots, but yet somehow we've allowed our lift stations to have gravel parking lots. So this is a cleanup of our own parking lot, expand it to allow for some public parking, and then create an accessible route from accessible parking to the shelter, which is a requirement of federal ADA law, which we're woefully behind on in all of our parks. But if we're going to add a new park shelter, we have to then be 100% compliant with ADA law. It would also include an accessible route to the playground. So it's some cleanup things that when we're adding an amenity like this, we've got to address to be compliant with ADA law.
Okay. So it's not all just because of the shelter. There is things that we needed to handle anyway.
Correct.
The next thing I wanted to ask about is the Scouts cabin. I know it's not a lot, and it's been a while since we talked about the Scouts cabin. So can you refresh me why that's in 2025? Is it?
These were the priority projects that came as a result of, these were the first two things identified from the JSD work, is that a structural floor plan needs to be created. We have an estimate from JSD to do that. The idea is that once we have that structural floor plan, we'd work with a local contractor and the Scouts on how we would potentially implement that needed adjustment. The other kind of high-level glaring concern is replacement of fascia and soffits. This would be materials purchase, and we'd work out an agreement with the Scouts to do the replacement work in some kind of volunteer agreement. The $7,000 is strictly the material cost of replacing the fascia and soffits.
Couple of things. I wanted to address one of the comments that was made, and that I think in the long run, by doing a vehicle replacement program, it will save money in the long run. I know we need to address mechanical failures first, clearly, but if we start replacing them on a consistent basis, in the long run, we're not going to have those mechanical failures, and it will be a savings to the city.
I think that, if I could jump in, Sarah, I think the compromise approach right now is to start working towards replacing our structural failures and get to a point where we can look at how to implement our own more aggressive replacement plan. But I think that's going to take us a couple of years to get to a comfort level and having the staff time to get there.
Exactly, I agree.
But what we did do this year, if you notice in this plan, is that I went with every director and had them list out what do you have and how long should you be keeping it, and we've written everything out in kind of our own. We've started those types of plans. Like, good. Well, I really need to replace these types of vehicles every so many years, and we structured them in the plan as best we could on our own without going to something a little more formal like an agency.
I love that.
So we are working towards that.
And to address Trina's comment specifically, we're a long ways from getting to a 5-year replacement plan. Yeah. Just in terms of financial capacity to be able to do that as well.
So I was also going to echo what Molly said. I unfortunately don't think that we need to be redoing City Hall at this point. It also leads me to a similar question. So we're doing an ADA compliance for the fire department, which, don't get me wrong, I know it needs to be done, but we're also talking about redoing the fire department in a new public safety building. So is this something we have to do because of a timeline and we're going to be fined? Or is it something that needs to go along with the new safety building?
How to answer that question?
Before you do, I have the similar question for the furnace replacement for the police department, since both those potentially would be replaced.
Yeah. I'm going to start with the ADA, just to explain ADA. The federal ADA law has been in place for a long time. The Department of Justice is not out looking for violations. It is a complaint-based. If we receive a complaint and a knock on the door from the Department of Justice, we will be required to fix it, and they may look around a lot more. I experienced that in a previous community where we had a lawsuit and went through a real fun process. It put the community in a much better position in terms of addressing ADA moving forward. But those are concerns and issues, and it's not limited to the fire department. We have, and every community has these challenges in, it's a federal mandate that was unfunded, and a lot of communities have struggled in how to meet that and meet all their other obligations. In terms of addressing these issues we have no timeline. I know that's not anyone's fault, but we don't know at what point we're replacing or are going to be able to move forward with a potential public safety building. We don't know the cost of it. We do know that these facilities will remain city assets that we'll either have to repurpose for other city needs or sell, and so that if we were to sell or redevelop in some situations or work with a developer to redevelop one of these buildings, it may not make sense. And I understand that this is a challenging calculus to figure out of what do we address and what don't we address. If the fire department were to become another city entity, we would have to address the ADA at some point. I don't know that the fire department is as repurposable. Maybe I'm wrong in that, and that we know there's a lot of work to go through that study process, and that delaying these things may make some sense, but can also then push that further down the road and exacerbate the issue. I think that the issue here is staff has included these as known issues and concerns. I'd be concerned in terms of a furnace, and I know Dennis is not here tonight due to some police-related activity, planned to be here. But I guess I'm concerned that I know they have 3 furnaces and that serve that facility, and this is the worst one. And if this goes out, what is that impact to their comfort for their staff over the winter months, which is a much different situation than an ADA, right? So I understand the concern and whether to move forward with these. I think staff has done their best to show them as needs, and it's really up to this body to determine whether we do this or hold off, knowing that there's potential change down the road.
Can I just tack on? Is there a way for us to get a summary? I think it was Molly who mentioned it, but it's really helpful to understand if these are needs because they're broken or just part of a replacement plan when we make our decisions, because of course we want them to have functioning equipment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Alder Lawson.
I think you took care of a couple of my items, but going back to the administrative offices redesign, if we're doing the assessment for public safety now, that'll be completed this year. Obviously, we would like to take action on, recommendations there. But can you explain then why wouldn't we want to move on to the next thing next year? I know there was some comments about not having it in the budget. I mean, if we budget it, at least it's there.
In terms of,
The study.
oh, I think there's a question of, would city offices remain in this building moving forward? And if there's an ability, like we currently have 7 people in this building working on a daily basis, if there's the ability to place them in a new facility that might be more cost efficient, cost effective, make more long-term sense for the city in terms of consolidating the number of facilities we have, that it may not be wise to spend that money at this time to look at this building.
Yeah, I totally think that makes sense. But if that option isn't realized, why would we not want to have this in the budget to then have that study done? And we're just talking about budgeting it, right? We're not talking about actually spending the money. We're talking about having it there in case some of those options don't become reality.
I just don't think it's like an immediate thing. I think that's why I brought it up. It's not something in my eyes that if we do have a new public safety building and we don't consolidate, it's not like these offices are going to fall through the floor next year. I think we do have time to thoughtfully think that through, and maybe we want to have time, as Matt alluded to, of potential reuse of maybe, I don't know, and this is just like a wild thing, like the fire department, because it's a smaller building, or you know what I mean, something like that, where I just feel like it's just not the right time, which is why I brought it up.
Well,
I feel like it's a significant want versus a need.
Yeah, and I think, so you made the point for me there. So like if there is a new facility for public safety, right? Why would we not want to have an evaluation then of those facilities that are being left behind to determine if they're correct for?
Matt, isn't like a study done on all of like the public safety buildings?
They've gone through and done a complete analysis of both the current police department and fire department in terms of it's something that we're close to a point of sharing it publicly and with the council, but it gives a very color-coded analysis of both buildings. It's really easy to interpret in terms of what is good, bad, or beyond repair in each of those buildings. So,
but it doesn't evaluate their use for other city needs, right?
Correct. And so, long story short, I think that's one of the things that when we complete the budget process and strategic planning, and I have a little bit of time, I'd kind of like to map out a facilities roadmap for the city and circulate that and get some feedback on it. And it's not going to be a formal, expensive, well-exhausted, well-done study, but it at least puts something to paper that I think will help this council and future councils at least have an idea of where we can go and what the long-term plan looks like for city facilities. Because we've all talked about, we have too many roofs. It'd be great to consolidate and get more things under, and the idea of the unknown for the future of public works after police and fire. We know the library would like at some point to look at expanded or renovated facility. There are those long-term facility needs. Having rec and the community center in the same block is great, but would they be better served in a combined facility? And maybe one of these repurposed facilities could be a long-term home for them. There's a lot of things that could be looked at and mapped out, and it just needs some time spent on it.
So you hit my other concern, I guess, is the roof on the community center. I mean, $150,000 is a big chunk, especially considering there's another $100,000 worth of items over the following 2 years. Is that really, money well spent?
I think it's a valid concern and topic to talk about, but I think the short term is that roof is in poor shape, and you know there's not an immediate place that we're moving the community center to, and so what. Troy, do you want to speak to the life expectancy of that current roof and what issues we're dealing with?
So my crew has been up there numerous times. It's beyond repair. We've had contractors come in just totally beyond repair. In the ceiling tiles, there's a big bladder up there that when the roof leaks, it's collecting the water. We have to go up there every so often, drain it. Not very long, honestly. Life expectancy of it is a year, if that. But it's definitely in need because it is a safety hazard also. I mean, there's a lot of people in there. If the ceiling tile comes down because of the bladder, I mean, that's, yeah.
That's the recreation building, right?
That's community center.
If it's raining on the election, I'm out.
And we can rent that, correct? Rent
It
that out?
Gets rented, yes.
It does.
I think it's a fair statement to say it's beyond its life expectancy, if there's a bladder in between the roof and the ceiling tiles?
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions for Troy?
Not for Troy.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Yeah, no, just want to mention, I remember so many expensive repairs to the roof over the years and patches that seemed like they leaked almost immediately. So I would definitely count it as a need. No matter what we're planning for the use of the building, whether we, whatever we think we could put it in, whatever we would hope to, sell it for if we had a different center built, we would need to have a functioning roof to keep the integrity, the structural integrity of the building itself. So I would definitely count it as a unfortunate need. Other things here, I also count the repairing the scout cabin as a need. I want to support this community gathering place, and if we don't get to it this year, we might, not be able to have a building that can be used. On the same token, I'm very much against having an architect for this building at this time. As much as I'm looking forward to the someday art center with a fully functioning theater above us, I don't think we're anywhere near that stage, and I don't want to throw money to have design work and dreams for something that's so far in the future.
Do we have any other questions for Troy?
Oh, well, I started with it.
And I think the challenge with the community center roof specifically is if we would not invest in that building, we need to find a new home almost immediately for our older adult programming that occurs at the community center, elections. That's a regular meeting location for a lot of city committees, different groups. It would leave a hole that I don't know that we've got a great answer on how that would be filled.
Other stuff?
I'm a little confused because I'm new to this on this end of it. So the capital improvement projects will be a bond, correct? Is that what we're?
Yeah, the
Okay.
ones that we're talking about here,
Yep.
with the exception of me pulling the bubbler out,
Okay.
are things that we're looking at in the bond structure that I was talking about
Yes.
earlier, and then taking these projects, looking at the years, the bonding, and how these projects, as they're funded, impact our budget and impact our levy.
So then, to Mike's point, to help me understand, so the 30,000 for the city hall, if we leave it in there, what happens to the money if we don't use it in a bond? Can it be reallocated, or?
You can reallocate it, you can carry it over to a future year. You know, if we get through all of our projects at the end of a year, the easiest thing to do is whatever was planned for 2026, you're going to subtract that amount from what you need to borrow then in 2026.
Okay. And then the cemetery roof, to our conversation, the 15,000, is that our portion that we owe to the association? Or is that our building?
The way it's set up in the budget is for us to fund it, the general fund to fund it. We do have them set up as the association. They have their own fund. It's at the very end of our numbers, but we also have cemetery fund. It's 235, which we support with levy, and we also help support in other ways with facilities assistance. This piece right here would come from the bond, and we would provide that to them. We're looking at including it in our general fund expenses.
Alder Finkler? Alder Finkler?
Is this, so I guess my question is just on process. So we've been talking back and forth. Some of us, we want something. Some of us, we don't want something, such and such. Instead of us just keep arguing things back and forth, which we're not arguing, sorry, debating things back and forth. For example, I was just going to make a comment that I would like to keep the ADA compliant for the fire department. However, I don't want to waste everybody's time making, you know, a fight for the ADA compliant for it if it's not going to have an option of being booted out. So, and I know we keep going back to the city hall admin office's redesign. Do we have to at some point like have like a consensus and then we can stop debating over it and we can, you know, move on? Is that the only thing we want removed from this? I'm just trying to figure out what the end game is here tonight.
There's another option of you leave this all as is, and obviously any of these projects, or almost all of these projects, are going to require future contracts and design work. You know, we can have the up and down on certain things at the next meeting, correct? Tonight was really about getting some direction if there's any absolute
We
no's.
do want to know if there's something you're like, no, let's just take this out now. Because we don't really have anything left to bring to you to say, well, we'd really like to do this. It's not in the budget. Should we add it? Okay. We've done it the opposite. We've gone through every director. By the time you got this plan, we've already discussed with them, is this really necessary for 2025? And we've put things out. I actually have this same spreadsheet. Mine's out 10 years, not just 5. So we are looking at projections and long term. We've tried to get it down to what really we feel is needs. So we do want direction. If there's anything you want out now, we'd like to get it out now.
Okay. My only thing that I'm concerned with taking out is just the admin office redesign, just for reasons discussed earlier. And also, we've been really trying to take a strategic approach within how we've been planning for our future. And I just think we haven't had any discussions or planning on that, to where we just really need to probably remove that for now.
Alder Lawson?
So you said you already had all those discussions with the department heads. If we take something out, is there a, number one project that someone really thought should have happened but didn't make it that we could put in, or that we should at least have the conversation?
Nothing's coming to mind.
No.
Well, it's the goal to save money or spend all the money. So I think that there would be an argument that we should be trying to, save some money in the budget if we can, not trying to add more.
Nothing
to
gets cheaper though, right? And like
savings.
next year, everything's going to cost more than it did this year. So,
Unless one of the directors wants to speak at the moment, I don't think we have anything that we'd want to bring forward a year.
Okay.
we're really trying to take a realistic approach on what year to do things. And
I'm good.
only one we don't have is
the only thing that I would say, though, that, and I'm not saying this is the amount, I know that the 6,000 we have for pickleball is way low. Okay, that 30,000, I'm not saying we need all of it, but that would go a long way to ensuring that we've got a viable project that is well done and well carried out in terms of the pickleball project.
Are you saying 30,000 in addition to what we have saved already?
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I put in 8 pickleball courts in 2018 and at a $223,000 cost. Okay, the idea that we're going to get 4 pickleball courts for $45,000, it's not laughable, but it's extremely, extremely unlikely, especially when we're going to factor in drainage and making sure that it's done in a right way, that we've got the right base, and that we've got fencing and netting, and that the public is really happy with the end result. And it's an area where I'd like to get to a point with our park improvement projects that there is a fundraise component and that the city's helping meet that and ensuring a viable quality project.
Alder Motive?
I'd just like to recommend that we take it as is. I know that we have questions on the projects, on some of them, and I too feel that we should hold on some of them, but what I'm hearing and listening to everything is that we can choose not to do a project if it comes down the road, like the City Hall admin building, and then we can deduct that from the borrowing from the following year. So I do think Alder Lawson was right, and we should just budget for the full amount and then make adjustments as we move forward.
And I can't think of a capital project that you approve a bond issue and that automatically authorizes that project. I mean, everything comes forward in terms of a contract, an approval, a design, and so there are checks along the way that that if you want to commit to this funding level and capital and trying to get to that consistent borrowing approach, there are always projects that come along that that we'll be able to carryover happens, and I think that helps in future years too. But if you don't spend everything in a year, having that extra the next year can only be a good thing.
And one of the adjustments we did do this year is we're trying to watch the movement, where in some years past, some of the purchases were in the 100 general fund and noted as operating, whereas we're making sure these types of items are all in the capital projects fund. And it's, so you can easily see that here's our capital projects, here's our debt. So it's all in debt service 300, it's all in capital projects 415. So we've done that this year to make sure we've moved everything together so that we can always be consistent. And that matches to what Matt was just saying with the carry forward and stuff.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I would still prefer and love to fund the pickleball and have more of a hybrid donations, half city supported recreational option for the public. I just so much prefer having something that's physical and can be fully realized in a year, as opposed to funding something we know that it's going to be quite a while before we can take any action, and we would likely need to hire a new architect at the time when we are finally ready for an office redesign.
Alder Finkler?
Yeah, I echo what Alder Reed said, and also I want to call out that if we leave it in here as just a study for the redesign, where my brain is going is, I understand what you're getting at, that if we don't spend it, we don't spend it. However, approving it in the budget could potentially cost staff time in the future looking into it and doing some legwork before they bring it to council for us to shut it down. So I think that reappropriating those funds to something that's more realistic, like the pickleball courts, where we do not want to deter the donations that we have got on those and really hurt us in the future for getting more donations because we're actually not following through as quickly as, you know, citizens want their pickleball courts, you know. So I would request that we don't have to take it out, but we shift it down to pickleball courts.
Staff is good with that.
I agree with Alder Finkler. I think we should reappropriate those funds to the pickleball courts.
Any other questions or comments on, I'm actually not even sure, was this all just capital budget, or since we did the?
Right now, we're just on capital budget, yes.
I mean, we were talking about it all during the presentation,
Yeah.
so, okay, any more questions on capital budget? Comments? Are we ready to move forward into discussion of operating budget?
Or I'll just take one and you guys can keep
Want a 5 minute?
Sure.
Yeah.
No more liquids.
I know why you said that makes sense. Yeah, I know. No, because we don't want our pickleball courts to be flooding. We talk about stormwater and all that. But I mean, I have the money for the tall stuff.
I just want one more. One with the golfers.
I get it. But I just wondered, like what Brian said, I'd like to be able to, you can just put a blurb out there.
Cardinal.
Let people know. After line number 43 on your check.
That's all. That's all I want. For now.
Cool, I'm good. Do it right. May as well. Well, he wants good fencing and drainage.
He just pulled it for some reason.
Well, probably asphalt.
If my tongue sticks out,
I have enough for 4 courts and a basketball court. I have enough for the nets, I have all that, but adding stormwater around it, fencing, and planning it out the proper way. Because they want to repave the access road.
So is that
I'm gonna open the floor for questions or discussion on the 2025 operating budget. Alder Lawson.
Okay, so you mentioned staff increases of 3% and 4%. Can you explain the reasoning behind doing 3% for the non-union folks and not matching the 4%?
$100,000.
Well, that's one easy explanation. I think the second explanation is new guy didn't know that the union contract had called for 4, and I think every community I've been in started with a 3% discussion always each year. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not saying we have to copy what everybody else does. It's what I'm used to, and so I told Crystal, build in a 3%. So
does that, do those affected employees, are any of them not highly paid individuals?
everyone is at the mid-range. Everyone in the city is at the mid-range of their wage scale. We made a conscientious effort, and that might have been before you and Alder Rostad were added to the council, but that was a big first quarter effort to get all city employees to the midpoint of the range.
Yeah, I understand that everyone's at the midpoint. I guess the question is, are any of those positions more of an entry-level position that are at that 3%?
Yes, there are. I mean, we have entry-level positions, and those are getting a 3% increase.
But I do want to call out, though, that they're not to interrupt, but their pay range reflects the entry level. So it's not like they're making as much as a higher level individual. So, I mean, a 3% raise for them isn't going to be as high as, a director's position, but I would argue they still deserve a raise even if they're entry level.
Yeah, I think my concern is, you've got two folks next to each other, and executive type level positions aside, right? Someone that's got a collectively bargained agreement is going to get a 4% raise, and the person next to them is only getting 3%. Why are we not giving them also 4%?
And I'll spell it. So I completely understand, but I'm also in fear that of what I've highlighted in email form yesterday to the council, that we are currently looking at about a $390 increase to average assessed home. And to get that number to a $350 increase is somewhat attainable by cutting another $86,000 from our budget. But I also know that our 3% increase on the general fund is $179,000. So a 4% increase, I'm just worried about if we're going to add a percent to some positions, all positions, whatever we're talking about, that at the end of this discussion is going to result in some direction for us to get down to a certain number that the council is comfortable with, and that this discussion's working against a later discussion on the night.
Should we move that up then?
To me, I think that is the biggest discussion of, we have to understand, and Crystal can talk a little bit about this, is we're going to have an increase. Getting an understanding of what is an acceptable increase, so that then we can try and figure out how we get to that number. And it's a little bit of backwards budgeting and working backwards, but I think at this point it's our best road forward, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's the biggest question that's out there right now. Everybody got their assessed value. They're doing calculations based off of the current mill rate, which I did myself, and I'm like, there's a comma. And it's not a 1 in front of the comma that my taxes are going up. So, I feel like that is a pretty important conversation.
Well, and that's why we developed the very last slide to show you the trend Because once that, I mean, it's still one levy. It's one levy. We can only increase it so much with the debt. And whether your values are all down here or your values are all up here, it's still one levy, and it gets spread to everyone based on their value. So it's may take your neighbor over here maybe only went up 40%, you went up 60, or it's all washed to us, but it does affect the individual. So we've got a little, I produced a little spreadsheet that you can plug, okay, if we only want it to go up this percent, what's our levy target have to be? And that's where Matt came up with some scenarios. If we want to get it down to this level, this is how much we have to cut. Because we were a little surprised at the end outcome once we did the first round of budgeting with all the directors. So we did, well, you saw the first one that went out. We actually had to go, okay, it's hunt time, and let's figure out if there's any mistakes in here or there's specific things that we can not worry about right now, and produce the draft that you have in front of you tonight.
And so the draft that went out in the original packet and the draft that we're talking about tonight, there's about a $300,000 difference there. So we kind of looked at, all right, you know, there were some numbers that we just felt like we get why this was asked for, but let's talk about this. And we talked with those department heads. I sent an email out to all the department heads. A number of them offered up some reductions or cuts or increases in revenue that they felt were attainable, and we implemented all those, and we were able to, and then the big one was taking the $150,000 zoning rewrite and spreading that over 2 years. That was $75,000 of the 300. So you could see how we started to get. The two scenarios that I threw out just to highlight, an 8% increase would require us to reduce the budget by another roughly $87,000. And that average assessed home would see an increase of $352 on the city portion of their tax bill. To get to a 4% increase, we're looking at $237,000 in cuts, and that would result in a $286 increase on an average assessed home. I have grave concerns on how we get a $237,000 reduction in this current budget without that looking at services offered. Because
does anybody have an interest in going to that level? I think
No.
that's a question. I don't.
My question is, you had said earlier that you thought maybe reducing the 86,000 was a possibility. Where would you go to make that cut?
So how do I phrase this? There are some department heads that responded with some potential cuts after Crystal and I made the noon cutoff of this is the updated budget that's going out. So there's somewhere around $45,000 there in other proposed cuts that can be made relatively easy.
And are they humble, or are they things that could really be cut?
Troy, about 28,000 of them are yours. Do you want to answer that question?
It's doable. It's very doable.
They were, I think in a lot of ways, they're looking at, as they prepared their budget this year, I told them, ask for what you need, right? And it's, instead of, oh, we can't do this because we don't have that in the budget, it's, you know, and so, like, I think one of the things Troy looked at was wisely, there's some ditches that we mow that would be really nice to contract out. And he increased a line from $1,000 to $3,500. You know, am I saying that right? You know, so it's little things like that where you start making some of these reductions, and all of a sudden Public Works drops down $15,000. And then David has shared a couple of cuts that he think can be made on the media side. And so you get down, and then as Crystal explained, you know, it's looking at, you know, changing some 5s to 0s. And
it's nitty gritty at this point with what we've already got in the budget. I will mention also that if you look at our history, we've kind of flatlined on raising taxes. And I do see that this year it's going to take a jump no matter what we do. And once we're there, that's where we're trying to build the sustainability from moving forward. That's just a comment that I wanted you to understand, that we do want to be able to take this forward. We'll be working with the debt structuring on that. But like I said, it's sometimes down to just numbers games and finding areas where, well, you really are consistently under budget in this account. Let's knock off 200 here. So it's something that we would at this point would need to get a little nitty gritty on with everyone.
The other thing to share, and you've probably learned by now, I like sports analogies. It's easy to armchair quarterback and look back at the last couple of years where we saw some small decreases in taxes. If we'd have made some small incremental increases, this would be a lot more. We would have been headed in this direction, and a small increase again this year would have been a lot more palpable.
We had TIF 3.
And last year, the big saving grace for the budget was the closure of TIF 3. It put a significant amount back.
I didn't catch it, or I wouldn't have taken all Chris's advice and hunked a bunch of stuff out of the budget.
Yeah.
We probably would have worked a little harder on some things that we're dealing with now because of time.
And again, I don't want to paint a forecast where every year is going to be an increase. Going through this budget process the first time really highlighted something I knew already, is we need residential growth. Like, we need more taxpayers sharing this burden and helping to cover these costs.
Mm-hmm.
Alder Rosted?
So the union we speak about, we only have the police union, correct?
Correct.
So the chief and the lieutenants aren't part of the union, right?
No, it's just the sworn officers.
But yeah, so the chief is at 4% and the lieutenant's at 5.26.
No, everyone in the department except for the clerical are receiving 4%, so that their scales can move consistently together. That's something that happened last year that we had to restructure, and especially when they went into contract and we went into closed sessions. I don't remember you being here then.
No, I wasn't, no.
But it was very clear that as we have the union contracts and what percent that we need to keep the rest of our administrative police department moving in the same scale. So yes, they are at 4% increase.
So on the amended budget, page 154, where it says lieutenants at 5.26%.
Increase?
Correct.
Well, that's just based on who's getting what salary, whether they went up. They all go up 4%, but it depends on who's in that bucket at the time.
Okay.
So when you have
only
changeover, someone might be paid at a different level.
And there's only one chief,
'Cause
so
they're
that's
all
why
by
he's
year.
at 4%. There's two lieutenants or whatever. That's why the percent's different?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only reason there's a percent difference, is they're all getting the actual 4% in wages.
And-
That's in a whole nother spreadsheet. We keep it.
Yep. And then another question I had was on the fire training wage. It's went for 24 budget, it reflects 67,880. Does that include our 20,000 from the amendment we made?
Yes.
So then, I do some math. So it only went up to 69,860. So I'm just short
From
of
the
2,000 projected.
This is one that we did a lot of surgery on Monday morning, so to speak.
I was going to
in
say, because
consultation with Chief Hazeltine.
but this doesn't reflect the rural groups portion of the training side, or does it?
That's in the revenues. Their revenues are, because they're coming from a separate agency or entity, you don't net them out in a line item in your expenses. So if you look up at the revenues, I'll find it for you. It's on page 2.
Oh,
If you look about midway down,
I don't have
rural
page
fire group.
2.
Hold on.
On the budget?
No, I got the amended, so I'm on page.
No, it's still on the amended, page 2.
Their numbers are given to them from Unicode, so it's the whole packet.
I got the whole packet, yeah, so that's right. When you keep saying page 2, I'm like, I don't have page 2.
Covered up, that little
Yes.
thing covered up my
Yep.
page. I'll have to move my page to the left side.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
I will.
I'm trying to get there so I can tell you what.
Just go to the second page of the budget.
In that packet, in your updated.
The second page of the budget, about midway down,
Oh, right here.
has the rural fire group
So it's
charges coming in.
454593. Correct?
Yeah, that's got the inspection, education, and training reimbursements.
Okay. So we can, well,
Yeah, and they don't always get in the right accounts, but, so I look at it in the whole group.
I just want to make sure that there's enough in that line item for training. Because you are fully staffed or one short.
Two, we got two coming back. We got one going into three, two coming back, so we went first.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but reading the budget or the monthly reports, when we're reimbursing people for mileage for training, does that come out of the training budget of the 60?
There are
No,
separate.
there's only-
That comes out separate?
Yeah, there's only certain ones that get the reimbursements. It's in their wages.
But there's also two training reimbursement lines for fire.
Yep.
One's tied to the 2% dues.
Correct.
And then another is just training mileage and dues.
So, okay, so when I see we
Mileage
paid
and lodging.
firefighter so-and-so for $67 for mileage every week, that don't come out of your newly projected $69,000 budget, or it won't come out of there? Okay.
Comes out of 332 is my guess, right? The mileage, meals, and lodging.
That's usually the head. Going to their company.
Do you feel that's enough increase in the training?
He asked for more. It was one of the things we reduced on Monday.
I saw. Well, I was gonna say I saw it. It was a substantial cut when I looked at the amended. That's why I'm asking.
But these are the challenges as we look at how you reduce some of these lines down to get, even to this 8% number.
We did try to reproduce a trend and look at the increases that were going on during the year, and based on our 2024 projection, and then we took it from that number. Instead of taking his number and backing down and saying, well, then why is our projection for 2024 so much lower than 2025? So we focused more on 2024 and then projected up from there.
Okay, so my next question would be, obviously, for the chief's sake, we want to mirror, his goal is to mirror the same amount of hours training last year as this year. I'm assuming the firefighters got a pay increase for training wage. Is that $2,000 going to cover the same amount of hours that are in 24 to cover the 25 budget?
Well, I'll have to look at my budget workbook, because I took our information and put it into a payroll workbook and projected the 2024. So projected 2025. So possibly my 2024 number is a little bit high, because you're almost at the 3% increase.
Okay. Yeah, I just curious.
It's really close to the 3%, but I didn't recreate the 2024 again.
So so everyone got 3% as it's slated in front of us tonight.
The fire
Yes,
payroll
except for the
wage for
4%.
each specific thing they do that we pay separately for
Yep.
did get a 3%, yes.
Okay, and then the only other thing I have, when we're talking about entry level, but when we're bringing in new hires, wasn't it our goal to start them at midpoint? So we don't have anyone at the minimum or entry level pay rate. According to the sheet that we got in our packet, I think mine and Mike's first or second meeting, correct?
Correct.
Because that was one of our first meetings. We had 14. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we've
and
moved-
non-exempt individuals that we wanted to move to midpoint.
Yep. Everyone's at the midpoint, and anyone that's coming in is negotiating to that point.
And you said if we moved, I think one of the other alders asked if we would move everyone, Mike did, from 3 to 4. I heard Crystal say it was like $100,000
It not
increase.
quite, but it's, let me think.
I mean, if we went from 3 to 4.
It's probably in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. Just off the top of my head without doing the math. Because 3% is 179. So another percent is whatever 3 into 179 is.
60-ish.
Yeah.
And then for insurance, do we offer ETF for the city? That's what we're enrolled in?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And that went up substantial on the employer side, correct?
Did it?
It did for where I work, and I'm an ETF.
I was gonna say, I heard.
68,000 for my municipality.
We haven't gotten our charts?
Might want to look at that.
Put that on the list.
Okay.
Not to burst your bubble, but yeah.
Well, I mean, and again, you have to understand, there are some revenue projections on things here that we don't have final numbers. Like every couple days, the numbers move because we get more of the picture. You know, these are based off of best guesses and projections. And, you know, yeah, you say employee trust funds is going to change the number to the negative, and it does. And then we get good news on something that changes it to the positive, and it ends up kind of washing out in the end. But, you know, it's.
So you're not approving tonight. We do have a few things that have been coming in my emails today, and there are adjustments that are going to be made, probably both directions. We're looking at a few other fees. I've already incorporated some estimates on fee changes. You'll be seeing a new fee schedule coming up in the next round, and most of those are already incorporated in here. But if we have another adjustment in there too, so I got that one on my list.
I understand the 3%, 4%. I also, and maybe I'm coming at this from the wrong end, we've done a lot this year on trying to change culture, improve, and I understand you don't want to take a step back, but I also see that the staff has been appreciative of the efforts made, and I think 3% in the current situation is fair, and I think everyone will be very appreciative of the discussion, but I think where we're at, and again, just to remind everyone, it's my goal that in '25 we implement a full-scale performance evaluation for every employee, and that we come to you with a merit pay program that once we've got an established process of employee evaluations, that we find a way to incentivize people doing good work. And we have to come up with a fairness and equity approach to that. We've got some examples from other communities that are in practice and working in those communities. And Stephanie and I are working through that process right now as we're starting to implement our performance evaluation process through NeoGov. And to me, that's like our next big step on the right step on employee compensation.
Well, and I think that might address, and maybe you were alluding to this or maybe you weren't, but in most government agencies, in bigger established government agencies I've worked in before, there's no 3% across the board. You have your pay scale and it's a step. So it's not, if you're making $15, you get 3%, you're only getting this much more, whereas someone over here is getting 3% and they're getting this much more. So it's going to this type of process, I think, would alleviate some of those issues that come up that the scaling 3% across the board gets objections to.
So under that someday new pay system, in the budget you might request 3% budget, but one person might get 4, one person may get 2, on their performance?
It would be the dollar.
How I've seen it is there's a dollar amount that's identified for merit pay. And then you go through the evaluation process, The administrator makes recommendations, working with the department heads on who's getting those, comes to council, and council reviews it and makes determinations on how that merit pay is handed out and distributed based on established criteria as part of the program.
So-
Most communities will still do a COLA, like the cost of living adjustment, and this is in addition to that in a way of rewarding your employees who are going above and beyond in terms of what their established goals and objectives were for that year in their performance evaluation.
Okay.
So, it may be similar to saying, okay, it's about 3% of all, that it would be the same workbook I use now, just set up a little differently, that we would be able to come up with an estimate each year, yes.
Yeah, I'm comfortable sticking with the 3% cost of living raise at this time, especially since we don't know what's going to happen with the insurance quotes. I'm assuming they will not be generously low. So I think we probably will wind up paying a little bit more overall once we find out those costs. And I love hearing about the extra possible merit pay bonus that some individuals can look forward to. Oh, I remember. What I wanted to ask about was discussing the 4% versus 8% possible reduction. First question is, do we need to do any reduction? And my second comment would be, I would not want to do the larger reduction. I think it would be much too stressful on the staff, and it would just be so much extra work throughout the year. So it would probably wind up being maybe a $50 or $60 difference to the taxpayer.
Well, and to better answer that, I think the question that you posed. So the current budget document shows a 10.2% increase. That is, we're showing that to a projected additional $389 in taxes. Getting down to the 8% reduces that amount to $352. And
no, we're
so,
not saying there has to be a reduction. No, just
But
where we want to make sure you're comfortable. These are the residents that are going to be paying this, and that's
and no one wants to see an increase. Nobody here wants to see an increase, but it's also coming painfully obvious that there's going to be an increase, and trying to do whatever, like in a perfect world, you tell Crystal and I to do everything you can to get as close to that 8% as possible, right? And knowing that numbers are going to change up until the absolute day
Till the
you
final,
have to finalize
usually.
things.
I'm good with that.
We're hoping in 2 weeks we'll be there.
No, thank you. Well, I don't like to see taxes increase ever, really. I just don't know that the amount will make enough difference to the lives of our constituents compared to the things that would possibly need to be cut. That's all. Thank you.
Alder Moda?
I think that asking all these questions is a wonderful thing, and I fully support being transparent. However, I also support efficiency. And I'm wondering if it would be more efficient to have our alders submit their questions, have you pool the questions so that we're not commenting on the same thing over and over, and respond to them at our next meeting where everyone can hear it. Just a suggestion. The other thing is I seriously don't think that going from 380 to 350 is going to make a huge difference in most of our constituents' lives. And so I am not going to recommend that we do any kind of cut and we keep it as is.
Alder Lawson.
So, going forward, do we know, as you mentioned, we need growth, what type of growth we need to make sure that we're not continually going up at this big of a clip?
We would need some time, I think, to analyze that and look at it to give it a serious answer. I think it's a great question, and it's something that, as long as you're willing to let us get through this budget process and then really put some time and effort into what that looks like.
And some of that's already being done. If you look at the work we're doing for TIF 7, the growth there, the developer agreement you guys looked at a little earlier. So having Matt here is getting us in the right direction.
There's a lot of work yet to do.
Does anybody else have any questions now, or are people comfortable with Alder Motive's idea of submitting your questions for Alder Reed?
Oh, no, I don't actually have another question at this time. I simply love the format of having such a transparent discussion. And yes, I think in it we do need to email in afterthought questions after getting to ruminate on the budget. But this is the wonderful messiness of democracy. It's great. Thank you.
Alder Winkler?
Yeah, I just agree. I'm with Alder Reed on that. I feel like if you were to ask our constituents if we should be able to go home and just send in our questions, they would say you need to stay until you guys have figured out our budget. So
well, I think with the questions, I think she means if you're like finding one account you want to, you don't understand since it's getting so late. We could answer those questions at the next meeting.
No, I think that's fine. I guess I just took the impression is because we're talking about the same thing over and over, which I agree with Alder Reed that is the point of this, and we should be doing it that way. But yes, I'm fine with any onesie-twosies questions going in. What I don't want is us to be just shut behind a door and email questions, and then they're just answered at the next meeting. So I agree. I like the format we had tonight, and I thought it was a very constructive and good conversation with everybody, and it just went really well.
Any other questions? Okay. Next item for discussion is regarding the 2025 trash garbage recycling assessment fees.
Oh. So all of you weren't here last year. I know there's a lot of information on here, but what we started doing last year was making very detailed tracking of the recycling fund, number 230. Last year's projection was that we would need $2.04 to meet our fund needs. I had a few higher projections in there, but look, I've calculated everything out. We know how many bins are out there. I'm estimating only five more sets, and there could be more, which would help the fund because we do have a negative fund balance because we bought the recycle and trash bins last year. So that was factored in, and I'm asking for I'm asking you to look at it so that we can have the $2.06, or I mean $206. Put the decimal in the wrong place. It's getting late. So the 206 is what we would see on everyone's tax bill, going from the 199 that was on the tax bill last year. So does anyone need any more detailed walkthrough? I highlighted across all the years the appropriate year, but it's basically based on our contract. The recycling, the dumpsters for the recycling that we pay for, it factors in a piece of the cart purchases for 5 years, and it results in $2.06 for next year. 200. Oh my gosh! I keep looking down, and I have just a.
Yes, yes.
It looks so teeny. I keep saying it.
You can only look at numbers so long.
Alder Rasta.
Two things.
Okay.
I guess it's probably a question for attorney. I can go back to item number 6, correct? Since this is still the cow. I just saw your facial expression when we moved from 6 to 7.
What do you mean 6 to 7?
Number 6 to 7. So from the operating budget to the trash.
Oh, the trash recycling.
Yeah, I saw your facial expression. So do you need more direction? Because I'll agree with Finkler. It is our due diligence to our constituents to get it nailed out.
On the budget, I didn't really hear any type of consensus on how all of you together feel about where the budget is versus, you know what, I really feel like we should lay it a little lower. That was what was going through my mind at the moment, if you would like to know what my facial expression
when I saw it, I'm like, I don't think she got the direction she needs.
No, that's okay. We want to support you. We should be supporting you.
Yeah, because the 7 of us that sit here is a very small portion of the budget.
I just thought, well, when I leave, I'm not sure how you guys. I'm not sure where we ended. Did we end, or
if you don't know, I don't know where we ended either.
I think the ultimate question is, are we leaving things where we are at, or are we trying to get to 8%?
Are we trying to reduce it all?
Are we trying to reduce it all? Are we trying to target 8%? Are we comfortable staying where things are at, knowing numbers could change, good, bad, or indifferent?
And the 8 and the
forward?
4 are big jumps. There's everything in between.
Yeah.
And you can mathematically calculate that.
I vote for no reduction, keep it as is.
No reduction.
No reduction.
My only concern would be if your ETF goes up substantial.
Well, we can
We'll look
easily
at that
say
'cause
we're
we
not
have-
going to let it go.
Yeah.
We're not going to let it go above where we're at right now.
That was ETF.
If we get an increase on something, we're going to try and comparatively bring that down to where we're at currently. I think we can agree to that easily.
Yeah, we already have a few things that I have on the list to make changes to. We just didn't want to change the workbook till after we met tonight. So we've already got a few things that need to be adjusted. Like I said, I'm going to be looking at the debt spreads so there's going to be a little bit of movement. We're just hoping to stay around the same.
And again, all this is doing is what goes out in the budget ad. It doesn't say 2 weeks from now, you can't say, we want to cut this, this, and this, and you got to get to this for the final budget publication.
Oh, I had a quick trash question.
Okay.
But it's unrelated to the numbers presented. It's the question of, is there any possibility of ever bringing back the spring cleanup?
Oh,
the spring bulk pickup. It's like
it's
Christmas.
ongoing 24/7.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now you have to call for 1 or 2 items to be picked up, whereas it was a joyous community occasion when everyone had all of their goods out at the same time. And
What do they call that, Madison? Hippie Christmas?
Yes. Exactly. Thank you. Just wanted to bring that up.
Elder Finkler?
Sorry, I got distracted by that comment. I want to go back to us previously talking about where we want to land in the budget. I know there's no decrease. I would like to see a decrease, but I would like to see only a sanity check decrease. I feel like we have some time yet, and there's going to be wiggle room, so I feel like I can't give an answer right at this point to it, but I feel like if you guys keep doing what you're doing and recognizing where you may be able to trim and keeping that identified for if the time does come and we are able to discuss want versus need, and anything like that, then I think that would be good.
Oh, I'm all for finding things that need to be fixed. So, yes.
Mayor Hammer?
Getting back to Alder Reed's comment on the bulk pickup, if I recall, from the presentation is that, you know, they would offer the 2 items per month free of charge. If they were to do a one-time mass bulk pickup, there would be a substantial charge for that. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean, it was, and if I recall, somewhat substantial. And I get, you know, for some people that may be an issue, but again, it's just a matter of taking on personal responsibility, making the phone call, you know, and so you can get rid of, you know, 24 items in a year's time. So I mean, that's substantial. So.
Well, and if I remember right, during that whole process, the discussion in the room was about, well, if not everybody's doing it, why should everybody pay for it? And that was where we ended up with that. And if there's ever someone who does run into that situation, they have the option of calling in, and they can also work with DPW. So we have the dumpsters we pay for there too. So there are options for them to call and see what kind of assistance they can get.
Thank you. I'm trying to remember if it was like a $2 per household charge. I'm not positive if they were going to have a one-time big bulk pickup. And I'm not coming so much from the individual angle of taking the responsibility to call and make an appointment. I'm more coming from the cultural and recycling angle.
I would like to redirect us back to the topic of the budget today, but maybe we could look and see for a future meeting what that rate actually was for doing a bulk day. Alder Lawson?
Yeah, going back to the budget, my recommendation is to advertise as submitted. I think, I just wanted to make a comment that I really appreciate the due diligence that you guys have gone through. It sounds like the process has greatly improved over past years, and it sounds like you already have identified some additional areas to cut if there is additional changes. I like the transparency, the capital improvement project outlook for 5 years, continuing to do that, I think is really going to help every year in doing the budget, so thank you.
Alder Reed?
Oh, no, I was just going to piggyback on the thank you for all of your hard work. This is amazingly efficient compared to the process when I first started. We would have a meeting pretty much weekly till 10 or 11 for over a month before getting to even this point. So this is incredible. Thank you.
Well, just one comment on that from the change from last year. I know we had the same night. Actually, we did it on the second week, and our week span is a little bit shorter this year. But we also felt that each of the directors work really hard with administration, and we're looking at ourselves as a group in total. So instead of trying to have each one of the departments coming forward and saying, well, this is my little piece of budget and here's my highlights, we wanted to look at our city as a whole and kind of take it at that focus. And that's why we didn't have them each have their individual one, because you do see their individual stuff anyway. And that was just a difference that we decided to make this year.
Crystal, did you get the answer you needed on the $206? Or did we provide you enough direction on that portion of?
Yes, you need to say that you want to take that to council for approval, please.
That's great. Are we all comfortable taking that to council for approval? Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussion on that item? If not, I would entertain a motion to convene to closed session per State Statute 19.851G for conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
So
Alder Motive will make a motion to move to closed session as per section 19851G.
Okay. I have a motion and
you should stick.
Alder Brosted, I heard you too. Are you good with being, okay? Do I have a second? We got two motions and no seconds.
I don't have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Finkler. Aye. Hammer.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody who is watching. We will not be coming back to air tonight. Have a good night.